Drones are great at making expensive humans nervous about employment, but they don't get to hold the parking lot. That's the fundamental tension at the heart of modern warfare's love affair with unmanned systems. Yes, drones are powerful tools that change tactics and lower costs. No, they are not a substitute for the political, moral, and physical work humans must do to win wars. And when we say drones, we're talking about the entire unmanned spectrum undergoing fast development. Quadcopters and reapers in the sky, sure, but also ground robots rolling through trenches and loyal wingman jets. Let's start with some vocabulary that clarifies why drones aren't magic. A high-value target is what the enemy cares about: their radar installations, their fuel depots, their command centers. A high-payoff target is which of those HVTs you must hit for your specific mission to succeed. It's the difference between things that matter and things that matter right now. Unmanned systems excel at striking HPTs when those targets are infrastructure: bridges, radar arrays, artillery positions, supply convoys. An MQ-9 Reaper can loiter for hours and vaporize a truck. Ukraine's Lyut ground robot, a small tracked platform armed with a PKT machine gun, can provide mobile fire support or scout ahead of infantry without risking soldiers. Point, click, boom. But here's the truth. The ultimate high-value objects in war are often human. Leaders who inspire resistance, institutions that organize populations, the morale of civilians who decide whether to collaborate or resist. A Reaper can destroy infrastructure from 30,000 feet, and a UGV like Ukraine's Protector platform can clear trenches remotely, but neither can occupy a city. Neither can shake hands at a checkpoint, negotiate with a tribal elder, or look a local mayor in the eye and convince them that cooperation beats resistance. You need humans for that. Infantry who can physically control space, interact with populations, and enforce governance on the ground. Western military culture has a deeply embedded preference for shock and decisive victory. We like our wars, like we like our action movies. Clear good guys, explosive set pieces, credits rolling before the consequences get complicated. Victor Davis Hanson documented this tendency brilliantly in his book titled Carnage and Culture. Western militaries have historically sought decisive engagements that break enemy will through overwhelming force. It's worked sometimes, but it's also blinded us to the reality that tactical success doesn't automatically translate to strategic victory. Vietnam proved this. We won nearly every major engagement. We bombed supply routes relentlessly. We racked up kill ratios that would make a statistician weep with joy. And we lost because tactical dominance couldn't produce a political end state the other side would accept. Iraq and Afghanistan ran the same script: spectacular initial victories followed by years of expensive stalemate, because destroying things isn't the same as governing them. Drone campaigns fit perfectly into this pattern. They let us degrade enemy capability while avoiding the hard decisions about what comes next. You can attrit enemy forces for years, but if you're not willing to put infantry on the ground to change who controls territory and population, you're just running up the score in a game that never ends. Here's something the unmanned systems enthusiasts don't love discussing. Most drones are only as good as their communications links, and those links are very attackable. Your quadcopter, your Reaper, your UGV all need radio links for control and often GPS for navigation. All of those can be jammed, spoofed, or simply overwhelmed with noise. Ukraine has become the world's largest laboratory for this reality, with both aerial and ground drones being used in massive numbers. Electronic warfare is causing significant attrition on both sides. Jammers crash aerial drones. GPS spoofing sends them spiraling. Ground robots lose connection and become expensive paperweights. The electromagnetic spectrum is a contested domain, and pretending otherwise is fantasy. You can't puppet your drone if the strings get cut, and cutting those strings is increasingly cheap and effective. This isn't theoretical. In July 2025, Ukraine's 3rd Assault Brigade conducted an all-robot assault using only drones and ground robots that led to Russian troops surrendering with no Ukrainian casualties, a remarkable achievement. But these operations remain the exception, not the rule, precisely because electronic warfare and attrition rates remain brutally high. When people think drones, they picture quadcopters and predators. But the ground robotics revolution is just as significant and faces identical limitations. Unmanned ground vehicles come in various shapes and sizes, from small tracked carriers to heavier armored platforms, most modular enough to be fitted with tools, sensors, or weapons. Ukraine's Lyut mini-tank is equipped with a PKT 7.62mm machine gun, allowing it to function as a mobile turret. The Protector UGV was designed specifically to enhance safety and operational efficiency for military personnel on the battlefield. These systems can evacuate wounded soldiers, deliver supplies under fire, and scout ahead of infantry, all useful tasks that reduce casualties. But they don't hold ground. A UGV can clear a trench, but it can't occupy that trench permanently. It can provide covering fire, but it can't interact with surrendering enemy soldiers or process prisoners. It can scout a village, but it can't conduct counterinsurgency operations that require building trust with locals. Ground robots multiply infantry effectiveness. They don't replace infantry's fundamental role in controlling terrain and populations. So maybe the answer is full autonomy. Just let the AI decide, right? Cut the strings entirely and let machines hunt on their own. This is where we enter genuinely uncomfortable territory. The military uses a taxonomy. Human in the loop means a person approves every engagement. Human on the loop means a person supervises, but the system can act. Human out of the loop means the machine decides independently. Current policy language is deliberately slippery about where those lines are, and real-world systems keep pushing humans further from direct control. The problem is context. AI can identify patterns, but it can't understand meaning. It can detect armed individuals, but it can't distinguish between an insurgent cell and a wedding party where everyone's firing celebratory shots. It can track vehicles, but it can't recognize when destroying that convoy will trigger a diplomatic crisis or radicalize a previously neutral neighborhood. Adversaries can and will exploit this. Feed your autonomous systems false positives, bait them into civilian casualties, turn your efficiency into a propaganda disaster. More fundamentally, holding territory and controlling populations requires humans. This isn't philosophical. It's empirical from decades of counterinsurgency experience. You need infantry on the ground to interact with locals, enforce rules, gather intelligence from conversations, and provide the visible authority that makes occupation stick. A drone can patrol, but it can't garrison. A ground robot can secure a building, but it can't win hearts and minds. If your end state requires political control, and all wars ultimately do, you need boots touching dirt and humans making eye contact. The good news is that countering drones is possible and increasingly practical. Electronic warfare jammers disrupt control links. High-power microwave systems like Epirus's Leonidas can disable electronics at range. Interceptor drones hunt other drones. Kinetic systems shoot them down. Integrated air defense networks track and engage them. Old-school solutions like mesh nets and trained spotters still work against small commercial quadcopters. Ukraine has demonstrated that UGVs equipped with advanced optics and sensor masts can scout ahead of forces and supplement units short of ISR drones. But they've also demonstrated that these systems are vulnerable to the same electronic warfare that grounds aerial drones. The counter-drone ecosystem is real, functional, and constantly evolving. Unmanned systems aren't unstoppable. They're just another threat that requires adaptation and intelligent employment of countermeasures. Drones are cheap, which is their great appeal. Why risk a pilot in a $50 million fighter when you can accomplish the mission with a disposable platform? Ukraine has approximately 250 local businesses producing UGVs, with some costing around $35,000 each, a fraction of the cost of armored vehicles or aircraft. But cheap doesn't mean free, and expendability at scale requires logistics. Every drone needs spare parts. Sensors wear out, batteries degrade, munitions must be manufactured, stored, and delivered. Scale a drone campaign to operational significance, and you're recreating all the supply chain vulnerabilities of conventional warfare, just with different items on the manifest. Your swarm attack is only as sustainable as your industrial base and supply lines, and those are strategic vulnerabilities your enemy can target. Manned-unmanned teaming is where drones stop being overhyped and start being genuinely transformative. The concept is simple. Human pilots or mission commanders control formations that include unmanned loyal wingmen. The drones act as sensors, decoys, missile trucks, and expendable assets doing dangerous work while humans maintain command authority. Boeing's MQ-28 Ghostbat is designed as a force multiplier aircraft capable of flying alongside crewed aircraft for support as part of an integrated system, including performing autonomous missions independently using artificial intelligence. Recent tests have demonstrated MQ-28s being controlled from E-7 Wedge-tail command aircraft as uncrewed loyal wingmen to help protect high-value assets, i.e. E-Spectrum. The XQ-58 Valkyrie is designed to act as a loyal wingman controlled by a parent aircraft with a maximum weight of 3 tons, capable of flying to 45,000 feet with a range of 3,000 miles. The Air Force is planning to acquire at least 1,000 collaborative combat aircraft, potentially pairing 2 CCAs with each of 200 6th-generation NGAD jets and 300 F-35A fighters. This is force multiplication, not force replacement. An F-35 pilot with 4 loyal wingmen can cover more area, saturate defenses, absorb fire, and bring more weapons to bear than any single platform. The drones die doing useful things while the human provides judgment, context, and decision-making. This is the actual future of air combat, not Skynet deciding who lives on its own. Drones reduce friendly casualties, which is genuinely valuable and politically appealing. Dead soldiers erode public support faster than almost anything. But this creates its own distortions. When war becomes less costly in visible terms, it becomes easier to start and harder to end. Politicians can order strikes without facing the immediate political consequences of body bags. Except it's not bloodless to the people on the receiving end. Drone strikes that kill civilians still radicalize populations. They still undermine legitimacy. They still create long-term insurgent recruitment pipelines that make strategic victory harder. Counterinsurgency literature is unambiguous. The population is the center of gravity in these conflicts, and how you treat them determines whether you're building stability or breeding resistance. A drone strike might achieve immediate tactical success, but if it radicalizes a village that was previously neutral, you've just lost ground strategically. And if you don't have infantry to hold terrain and govern populations after the strike, you're not winning, you're just killing time. Drones are cheap, so we can win by attrition, until the enemy counters effectively or your logistics collapse under demand. Cheap per unit doesn't mean cheap at scale, and industrial production capacity becomes the limiting factor. Autonomy will outthink humans, in narrow, well-defined tasks maybe. But humans still dominate in understanding context, making ethical judgments, and exercising political wisdom. War isn't a video game with clear rules. It's a contest of wills conducted in ambiguity, and machines don't handle ambiguity well. Ukraine's December 2024 all-robot assault represented a watershed moment, demonstrating that purely unmanned operations can achieve tactical objectives. But these remain isolated successes within a larger war that still depends fundamentally on infantry holding ground, artillery providing fires, and human commanders making operational decisions. Israeli operations demonstrate drones in dense urban environments with asymmetric opponents, where every strike becomes a political event scrutinized globally. The tactical efficiency is real. The strategic complications are also real. And if we zoom out to Vietnam and Iraq, we see the pattern repeat across generations. Overwhelming tactical dominance, failing to produce strategic victory because destroying enemy forces isn't the same as achieving political objectives. The technology changes. The lesson doesn't. Drones, aerial, ground, and everything in between will make war cheaper, stranger, and messier. They'll change how we conduct reconnaissance, deliver fires, and manage battle space. They'll reduce some costs and create new vulnerabilities. But if your plan to win a war is throw swarms until they give up, you don't have a plan. You have an expensive tech demo. Technology changes the how. Humans still decide the why and hold the what. Territory doesn't occupy itself. Populations don't govern themselves according to your preferences. Institutions require people to staff and legitimize them. You can destroy from altitude or clear trenches with robots, but you can't build lasting political solutions without human presence, judgment, and authority. The MQ-28 Ghostbat, flying alongside an F-35, is a force multiplier. The Protector UGV clearing a trench ahead of Ukrainian infantry is a casualty reducer. Both are tools that make human warfighters more effective. Neither replaces the need for those warfighters to ultimately close with, control, and govern the objective. The parking lot still needs someone standing in it, and drones, no matter how sophisticated, don't have feet.